I'm not the type of person that likes to grab other people's videos and post them and make a reference to them and talk about them, whether they're good, bad, or otherwise. In the beginning, when I started my YouTube channel, I thought, you know what, this is the way to get attention and whatnot. But over the years, over the past couple of years, I've realized that who cares about attention? Doesn't make a difference. I'm making these videos, sharing what I have gone through and how I'm growing and maturing spiritually, knowing that everyone will go through this. And some of those people may discover these videos, whether it's 5, whether it's 10, whether it's 1,000, whether it's 10,000, whether it's 1,000,000, I don't care. So I wouldn't grab someone else's video and point something out. But I do want to talk about a video I did come across on YouTube. It was a marvelous video. It was a great video. And it was a young boy, probably about 18, maybe 19, or maybe early 20s or something like that. But he was young and he was excited. He was sharing a Bible message. And he was sharing the Bible message from, I believe it was the book of John. I'll post it up here. But it's the verse in the New Testament where Jesus is sitting on the ground and he's using his finger and he's writing on the ground while there's a commotion going on behind him and people judging a woman for her indiscretions or, for her vices, what they claim to be a vice. I'm sure you guys know the story. I don't need to go into detail, but I will post the verse here. Now, this young boy was so excited and he stumbled upon something. He didn't stumble. He had a spiritual glimpse. And I think if he continues down this road, his awakening is not too far away. Not too far away at all. Now, I think that this young boy saw the parallels and he saw Jesus Christ in the Old Testament. Because make no mistake about it, the Old Testament is full of Jesus Christ, right from Genesis right into the end of the prophets. It's full of Jesus Christ. But in order to see it and understand it, not the teachings of it or the concepts of it that are in the world, but for your own personal experience, I really do believe that a spiritual glimpse of some kind, recognizing it and seeing the pattern and being able to cross-reference the pattern, such as this young boy did. And what a marvelous video. What an incredible video. He was so excited. He realized that he had expanded in spirit. He called it the Holy Spirit. I call it the Holy Spirit also. You call it the Holy Spirit. But it is an expansion of self in a spiritual sense to be able to see it and to understand it in the way that this young boy felt excited and happy and was over the moon about what he had just seen. Hey everybody, this is T-Talk. This is Nick. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for joining me. I just thought that today we should take a look at this, especially take a look at this Bible verse here. And I will share with you my experience, my mystical experience of myself, as I said, and what I saw writing in the sand. And then I'll share with you what this young boy saw and cross-referenced, and it was so obvious to him. So I had this dream back in, I believe it was 2022, and I found myself in this dream playing the central character of the New Testament. After all, it is Jesus Christ that awakens in you, and you experience all that is written in the Bible, or in the New Testament, I should say, of Jesus Christ, because that is your awakening. That is God awakening in you. That is your true, natural, spiritual nature. You are one and the same and no different than God because you are created in His image in every single way, including spiritual. And you are spiritual right from the beginning. No one can tell you otherwise. If you haven't seen it or you don't get it or you're just not interested in it, make no mistake about it, you are spiritual. There is no denying it. And if your awakening consists of the Bible and you're recognizing the dream experiences and the synchronicities and the parallelism in your life associated to the New Testament and whatnot, you will play out all the parts of the New Testament, and you will play out the part of the central character in the New Testament. That is how you grow and you evolve spiritually. You will be conformed through your experiences spiritually and all the spiritual glimpses that come to you to being made in the image of that central character. Now, you don't go around and say you are Jesus Christ. You are still addressed by the name that you are called. But you know that your spiritual awakening is a Jesus Christ moment in your life that is transforming you and it is changing you. And again, like I said, you can use words like consciousness, you can use words like God, you can use words like light, like energy. However, it is easier for you to understand it all. The road always leads back to one. And there is only one in the world, only one ever. So I had this dream. And for me, it was like constant unfolding of the Bible, constantly. And I can say that I wasn't reading it regularly. There was a time when I was, and I was that person who could point out chapter and verses and whatnot and tell you could find it here and there. But I realized I grow into this spiritual nature of mine, and I become comfortable in it and move around in it and go about my daily life and everything. That the impact of reading the Bible or discovering this and that unveils itself naturally without the need of an aid. Like I said, an aid in the beginning is the seeking phase, and you seek and you look for answers, and some of your answers are revealed to you, revelations that you have, dream experiences, and other things that point to your change and guide you in the direction of becoming the Jesus Christ that you truly are. And as I said, you don't address yourself that way. That is just foolishness, that is nonsense, and it is absolutely ridiculous. It is something that you are aware of. It is just your change that you're going through, but you still remain the person that you are. You're still addressed by the name, whatever your name may be. So I want to share this mystical experience with you guys, a revelation that was myself playing the central part of the character in the New Testament. And I was sitting on the ground, and it almost looked like I was on the shore somewhere. Like there could have been water all around me, but I didn't see it. But the sand was smooth and flat and whatnot. And I was sitting there, and I was writing in the sand. And what I was writing, I could see it clearly, clear as day in this lucid dream. I could see it very, very clearly what I was writing in the sand. And what I was writing was a heading, a title, and it was Job. It was from the book of Job. And it was Job. I don't have my notes right here, but I'll find my notes and I'll find the Bible verse related to Job, and I will post it here for you. But it was from the book of Job. I had Job written down. And while I'm writing Job and the chapter and the verse, and I'm writing out the sentences that that belong to the chapter and the verse, there's a commotion going on behind me. And it's my family. But I don't lift up my head. And yet there's a part of me that sees everything. In the dream, there's a part of me that sees everything. And I know it was my family. But I couldn't tell you who. Was it my sister? Was it a cousin? Was it a relative, a distant relative? But there was a group of people surrounding one person, and they were judging them, and they were condemning them, and they were telling them their faults. And then I hear a voice, and someone says to me, "What do you think of this?" And before I could answer, I ended up waking up. But my experience of this with this controversial passage that so many preachers from the pulpit have, I think, completely butchered and slayed, to be honest with you, because they have not had an experience. They have not had a spiritual glimpse, and they're going by what they assume or think or try to make sense of what's not explained in that verse. It's not explained what he's writing in the sand, but yet so many people think they understand, they know what he's writing in the sand. When I share the story with a young boy, you'll see how obvious it is and the parallelisms and being able to find Jesus Christ in the Old Testament. But I found that, like, looking through a lot of people's understanding of this verse, I've come to think of it as controversial because no two people are in agreement about the verse. And these people that I'm referencing are usually people from the pulpit or the scholars or whatever, you know. I really truly believe that you need to have an experience to understand this. I really do think that you need to have some sort of spiritual moment in your life, a glimpse of some kind, like this young fella, and to really see and understand how wonderful and how coded the Bible is, and coded in a way that it is fun when you start awakening and seeing it, to see all the passages, like comparing the Old Testament and the New Testament, and realizing that there really is no New Testament, because everything in the New Testament, although concealed and not openly seen, is available in the Old Testament. You know, I believe the New Testament is just like, say, part one of a book and then a part two. And then the part two is the revealing of what was not openly seen in part one of the book. And I do believe that, you know, that's the way it has to be looked at. But I also do believe that you have to see it first in book two. You have to see it in the New Testament first. And then I don't know how it happens. I don't know how it'll happen for you. I don't know how it'll happen for anyone. I know that how it happened for me was that all of a sudden I started recognizing that, hey, I read this in Exodus. Hey, I saw this in Deuteronomy. Hey, this part of the New Testament belongs to Job. This part of the New Testament belongs to Joshua. This part of the New Testament, you start seeing it. But I can't tell you when you're going to see it, how you're going to see it. You know, everyone has a different arrival time to this place of awakening, right? And as I said, sometimes you won't even be reading the Bible. Sometimes you won't even see it. I can't tell you how many experiences I've had where I wasn't reading the Bible. I didn't look at the Bible, and yet I was experiencing the Bible. You know, it was unfolding. It was revealing itself in me. And later on, sometimes it would be even years, and sometimes it would be a year later, and sometimes it may be 2 or 3 years later, I would come across reading a section of the Bible, and memory would return to me of that time when I had some sort of spiritual glimpse related to that when I wasn't reading the Bible. So it's hard to say how it will happen, especially if you're going down that route, the Bible route, and it's starting to unfold in you and reveal itself to you and begin this change taking place inside of you that will change you and transform you and create you into that Son of God that you truly are. Before you come to your actual real awakening and realization of your divinity and immortality. Now, I want to tell you the story about this young boy that I found on YouTube. As I said in the beginning, I don't like grabbing videos, so I don't have the video here. I don't want to share other people's videos. I don't want my videos really to be shared and to be mocked. I mean, if you're sharing them from a perspective of understanding and you get it, and that's great. But if you're taking them and you're just like judging me, I won't judge you. So, I mean, I expect the same thing. Therefore, I'm not going to take a video off of YouTube and just to point a young boy out and say, hey, look how fascinating and how wonderful, and talk him up. It's no different than talking him down. It's the same thing. He doesn't need the publicity. I don't need to advertise for him. But I will share the story with you because I think it is important to show you how spiritual glimpses are constantly all around us, how the world itself is constantly talking to us, how everything, God itself, is speaking to us all the time, calling us to awakening, calling us back to his holy mountain, which is you. It is you. It is a kingdom. It is a place. It is a body. This kingdom, this place, this idea from the pulpit that tells you that there's a separation, a heaven and a hell and whatnot. There isn't. You are the completed kingdom. You are this kingdom. Anyways, let me get back to this story before I go off on a tangent and I can't manage to work my way back. So in this video, this young boy is talking about the verse where Jesus is sitting in the sand and he's writing and he's writing with his finger in the sand, I should say. Jesus sitting on the ground. Yeah, I guess it would be sand. And he's using his finger and he's writing in the sand. Now, I want to say that he was drawing a circle. I don't know why. Maybe the Bible verse. I don't have it pulled up here, but when I edit the video, I'll correct myself if I'm wrong. But I believe he's using his finger and he's writing in the sand. And this young boy in this video was so excited. He was so excited because he saw the parallel in the Bible. He saw Jesus Christ in the Old Testament. He saw God in the New Testament. He saw God in the Old Testament. And he was able to break it down and see it. Now, he does say that it was through the Holy Spirit that he did see that. My understanding of that is that he had a spiritual glimpse, and that's how spiritual glimpses happen. He had a moment of expansion in his life. And as I said previous, if he continues down this road, I do not believe that his awakening is too far off. It's very close indeed. And what did he see with this? I think he took our attention. I think he drew everyone's attention to the writing of the tablets in the Old Testament. I believe it's either in Exodus or Deuteronomy, but I could be wrong. I believe it's Exodus. I'll put it here. And he showed the parallel with Moses on the mountain. And the thing was, the mentioning of the writing in the Old Testament was the finger of God was writing the commandments on the tablet. And he made the comparison and the parallel to the finger of God on the tablets to Jesus using his finger and writing in the sand. And it was a direct comparison and parallel to not judging and what the commandments were all about. You know, they are part of the law. They are abiding the law. Do not kill, do not murder. Probably the greatest commandment that has been broken and every single person in the pulpit is guilty of is creating some sort of image like man to God. You know, that's one of the very first commandments. Thou shalt not make a graven image unto me or anything on the earth or in the sea or under the earth or anything like that. And yet there's a gazillion pictures of something that is called Jesus Christ. And there's no description whatsoever in the New Testament of a Jesus Christ. But I found it to be really amazing and to be able to see this spiritual glimpse happening for this young man as he explained this. And he nailed it. That is the parallelism. That is the cross-referencing of the New Testament with the Old Testament. The writing on the sand and the judgment and everything taking place behind Jesus in the background, the accusations and the wanting to cast stones and whatnot. It's all about, you know, do not judge another. You know, do not judge anyone. It's part of the law. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not murder, etc., etc., etc. And I just thought it was wonderful that he had this spiritual glimpse and that he was able to see Jesus Christ in the Old Testament. After all, in the Transfiguration, when Jesus Christ and Elijah and Moses are standing together, it's a clear indication that Jesus Christ was there in the past. The Spirit, you know, God, for God is a spirit, John 4, verse 24, was there in the past. And now, as you are awakening and going through the stages and developing and evolving spiritually, what you knew of the past in Elijah and in Moses, and that has to disappear, and that only has to remain the Spirit of God. At least that's how I see it anyways, the Transfiguration. That there can only be Jesus in the world. God, you know what I mean? There can only be consciousness, call it light, energy, whatever. There can only be that in the world. You cannot, when you come to this place of understanding, there cannot exist an Elijah. There cannot exist a Moses. They have to be done away with. You have to be the one and all in everything. And everything else has to be done away with. But this young boy did see a parallel and a cross-referencing between the New Testament and the Old Testament. You know, to quote that verse in one of Paul's letters, Jesus Christ yesterday, today, and forever. He was able to see Jesus Christ yesterday in the finger of God and the tablets and the finger of God in the sand, while the law or not abiding by the law is taking place behind him. So it combined that imagery of like sitting on the ground and writing in the sand with being on the mountain and the finger of God on the tablets. The parallelism is beautiful. I don't think I did a really good job of explaining it to you, but I think it was really amazing. And I think the video is out there. It's a short on YouTube. I'm sure you can find it and you'll understand it. But I think it's amazing to be able to see a young person who actually is not speaking from the pulpit, is not speaking from a church organization point of view. Although I'm almost positive that there is some sort of church background, some sort of upbringing in the church, and maybe some time spent in the church to hearing the sermons and whatnot from the pulpit. That I do believe that possibly that he does have some church influence in him. But to be able to see this parallel and to make out the cross reference between the finger in the Old Testament and the finger in the New Testament, and especially concerning the law, judge, do not judge unless you wish to be judged, etc. Blah blah blah. I think it's a spiritual glimpse that this young boy had, a spiritual glimpse that will really may soon enough bring him to a spiritual awakening. And you're never too old to have a spiritual awakening. Although I do know that a lot of people usually have them around 30 years of age, or so they claim. But it's not beyond God to have a spiritual awakening at like 14, 15, 16, 17. You know what I mean? You have glimpses along the way. Make no mistake about it, because you are spiritual. You'll always have the glimpses. And once you recognize this awakening, you will also recognize and be aware the glimpses carrying you to the final stage and second coming and second awakening. So I thought I would share this with you guys and share my experience and how it relates to writing in the sand from a mystical experience itself to me, and how it ties into Job. And Job is very much a book influenced by the law. You can see the way he's persecuted and judged and criticized by his friends. Like, these people are not there to comfort him. They're there to tell him he did something wrong. He stepped out of line. He deserves everything he got, So for me, it was writing in the sand in Job, and for this young boy having the spiritual glimpse, which I'm sure he may in the future have the experience himself, walking into his awakening and through his awakening of playing the central character of Jesus. And to him, he may be writing in the sand something else, but it will also be related to a Bible verse in the New Testament, and maybe pointing out something in the Old Testament. But he, at one point, has to drink the blood and eat the flesh of Jesus Christ. He has to become that thing, and he will have the experience, all the experiences, as you will, and everyone will, through your awakening, of what is taking place and what the authors have left behind for us. Because make no mistake about it, what they left behind for us is to show us that we will walk this walk. We will be transformed into this Jesus Christ, and we will experience the transformation and the story as it was told. It will unfold in us, and we will experience that in a first-person perspective of being the central character. Now, this young boy had a glimpse, and he was able to see the parallel and cross-reference it, and good for him. I think in the future, he will actually have this experience himself, where he will be the central character, just as I did, and just as many people around the world who have awakened have. It is all part of evolving spiritually. It is all part of growing spiritually. It is all part of a preparation for your true, immortal, divine self to come through and assure you that you are greater than what you truly believe, or what the world has led you to believe that you are. Anyways, this is Nick. This is Tea Talk. I'll see you guys next time.